It's a done deal. It's a done deal. Caleb Williams is headed to Chicago. ... The Chicago Bulls set a precedent of rebounding and futility in the window for the Cavaliers after dropping one to the lowly Pistons the night before. In college basketball locally, both the Fighting Illini and the University of Northwestern both get big wins. Sister Jean's Loyola Rambers are on prime time tonight, and we'll have the latest from around the NBA and a whole lot more. Second City Sports, the Friday Funk edition starts right now. Welcome to the Friday Funk edition of Second City Sports. We're live and in living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago, along with Miss Lakina McGee, which is she. I am Sydney Brownhead. That's me. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter, X, and the IG at CK80. Once again, that's CK80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my Kitty McGee on the Twitter, X, I can't again, the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports on Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Make sure you follow Sports on Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow on all social media platforms at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinions during our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you can always find us at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. But you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I forget you, Lakina, full powers to give you fools to be able to be a boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, we must remind you can catch Sports on Chicago live in their living color right now on Roku TV. That's right. So celebrate the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. If you already have a Roku television, just tap on that Sports World and download that Sports Zone Chicago app. If you don't have a Roku television, but you have some handheld devices laying around, iPhone, iPad, iTouch, your Chromebook, or your PC, just hit up the Google Play Store, and download their Roku TV app and access Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So no more excuses. Celebrate the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Live and on demand.
Anytime, anywhere.
And you know we will provide.
And yes, we will provide you happy first Friday in March here on Second City.
Yay, spring is sprung.
Yeah, sort of. But yeah, we're gonna keep it going here, keep it springy here on Sports on Chicago. Of course, we'll talk. We have our new buddy from the program, Scott Levis from the Barber Network. He's going to join us to talk some NBA and Bears. Also, too, we got our girl Christine Manika from KXRB. She's back to discuss all the latest sports hot topics and such. And of course, we'll talk some Bulls and in a very strange few days for the Bulls, if you will. The rest of the NBA. Also, some big games coming in college hoops as it is March, folks. So we're almost in the madness part of the month. So, last couple weeks of the regular season there. But first, Sid, I wish we had some clips from the combine. Now, I'll admit I haven't really watched the combine like that, but Caleb Williams, the prospective number one pick for maybe for the Bears, maybe not. Said all the right things today, early this morning, saying he was one. He's not playing for fame and blah blah blah. He wouldn't mind coming to Chicago, et cetera, et cetera. For me personally, I'm just like, oh, okay, that's nice. And then you have Pro Football Talk, and I wish we there was a tweet from Pro Football Talk from a few hours ago saying that, well, you know what? Look out, NFC North. The next, Caleb Williams next to Lemon or something like that. Okay, I don't know. Look, I don't know if Mike Florio wrote that. Whoever does the social media for them, but I think they need to kind of take a beat on that. But so it was just Caleb. It was like all the QBs. Heisman Trophy winner Jane Daniels from LSU, Drake May from North Carolina. I think Bo Nix, from Oregon, he was out there too. So, and of course, local kid JJ McCarthy, national champion Michigan. So it's interesting because I think for me, this whole thing about people thought it was going to be a big trade, going to come down this week. Nothing's going to happen. Probably not till another next couple of weeks. It's just like, okay, I just want them all be over and done with. But the hoopla surrounding Caleb Williams and all this is just. And then of course Jesse Fields' Instagram. It's just a little bit too much for me. I can't. I just couldn't. It's been very annoying the last week and a half. Let's be honest.
I echo those same sentiments. I said that a few weeks ago, but here's the thing: in a very limited, and I do mean very limited action that listening that I had to endure with both Chicago radio stations this week, after what Caleb Williams said earlier this morning and what Mike Florio has been talking about hopping around local podcasts affiliated with the Chicago sports media. It's many people and many fans included want Justin Fields gone and Caleb Williams here. I don't know who started it, but I know there's some pundits that said that Caleb Williams could be the next Patrick Mahomes. And I don't know where they got that from, even though I watched Caleb Williams a little bit more than I did the previous year. I know you watched him way more than I have during his last 2 years at USC. You can have a better evaluation than I can. But my takeaway from watching Caleb Williams, he's a very good quarterback. But here's the problem with our society in general, but especially in particular in sports media. You want to find the next big thing right away. You want to say, I was the first one to say this. I was the first one to say that. Oh, I saw something here that no one saw. You're trying to be the first one at the door, and things just don't work out the way that it does, especially in professional sports. And shout out to our guy, Jason Goff. Hopefully we can get him on this podcast in the future. I was listening to his episode earlier today, which is out right now, the Full Goal podcast. And he was talking about that you don't have to be the franchise quarterback to be good. There's only about 3 or 4 of them, maybe 5 looking at best in the NFL. And then the rest, you have a second tier, and the rest are just average or below average at best. So, of course, for the favorite football team that I root for, the Bears, you want to have the best at every position. But we all know realistically that's not possible. If your quarterback is just good to very good, I'm good. Of course, do you want your quarterback to be a franchise quarterback? Yes. But if your quarterback is good to very good, I'll take it.
Well, and Louis Second City Sports on Chicago, the Keenan McGee, Sidney Brown with you as we're talking to NFL Combine. And I think for me, I'm listening to all the pundits. I've CHGO Bears and like you said, the sports radio station here in Chicago. I mean, basically they're saying that Caleb is the missing. Should the Bears draft him, he is the missing piece. Not to mention, forget the fact that you need another wide receiver, you need another O-line help, maybe some D-line help, maybe an edge rusher to help out Montez Sweat. You still got a lot of holes, and look, we've heard some of the things. I know Ian Rappaport reported, it came out last night on his right there at the Combine, his reporting that a lot of teams don't want to sacrifice giving up a lot of their picks for that number 1 pick for the Bears. So it looks like the Bears are going to end up staying at number 1. Could that change within the next month? We'll see, because the draft's not till the last week of next month, April. So for me, it's just like I'm tired of all the the hubbub and this and that. Like this guy's this and this guy's that. I mean, nobody knows nothing. Like if you think about Patrick Mahomes, even though he has 3 Super Bowls, he still admit that he couldn't run a good 40 time. He's still pissed about that. You know how much of a perfectionist he is. And look, you saw 46-year-old Tom Brady. I don't know if you saw this, Sid, yesterday. He's trying to prove that he wants to improve on that 40 time he did 24 years ago. He said he wants to even do it even faster next year. And knowing him, he'll probably do he'll do everything he can to make sure he does just that. So I think guys that exercise and do most hip curls and bench presses. For me, that I don't need that. Look, you're a good player, you got the good intangibles. For me, I think that's what I want to see. Whether it's a quarterback, wide receiver, I know Marvin Harrison Jr. is out there as well. Roma Dunze, I know that's a name that's being thrown out there. But I think that it's hard to kind of make an impression on somebody within like maybe 2 or 3 days in Indianapolis, and because we know that Caleb's not going to throw. I know a lot of the other quarterbacks aren't going to throw. They're going to wait to their respective school pro days, and so you're not going to be able to make any conclusions, especially if you're not sure what you're going to do, especially if you're wearing polls.
Also, too, in that presser from earlier today, Caleb Williams talked about how he was interviewed by the Bears along with all the other teams as well. It was about a 10-minute interview with all the teams, and he said that you couldn't really make a judgment on where they were headed. I'm talking about the teams that were interviewing Mr. Williams, but he said it was all about the mentor, where testing him out on his playbook calling skills and also trying to find out what he is as a person. Lakina, you know this as well as I do. You can find something, but you cannot find out everything about a person in 10 minutes. Just like you cannot find out everything about a person on the first date. You can find out just enough to see you go on the second date and so on, or you can just cut it off. So I will blame the NFL for this. Remember, this was a secret to about a decade and a half ago, and where the NFL Network started televising this. I know we all see it every year on these commercials. We follow their journey from the combine to training camp, and now they're a Super Bowl champion. Watch the NFL Network. So for the NFL and the NFL Network, I give them credit for that because that formula is working. But here's the thing about the combine: it's just a stepping stone to the pro day, and it's all about getting the media down there and to get people talking. On the business side, for us, I give the NFL credit for that because it's having people talking, including us right now. But I think I don't want to put words in my mouth, Lakina, but this is just my thought. Where are we getting to a point right now, or are we heading down the path where the scouting combine is going to get tiresome and perhaps watered down?
Oh no, I'm with you. You didn't. You basically said what I was gonna say. You didn't get out of my head, Sid. But yeah, it is kind of watering down. I mean, look, we've seen guys get hurt, during the combine. We've seen guys that came out of nowhere that become big stars. I mean, look, no one thought. Look at Zach Pacheco. I mean, I know I didn't hear his name a lot during the combine last year. Look what he's done now. He helped lead the Chiefs to another championship. So you can see a lot of unsung heroes that kind of came out of that kind of come out of nowhere in Indianapolis. So I don't think we're going to see the combine disappear. That's not going to happen because you'll probably discover hidden gems. But I think, like you said, Sid, I mean, they've been doing this forever. It's just that it became a TV event, like you said, about 15 years ago. So now it gets rated very high, and I don't see the NFL ending it anytime soon.
LeBron James has a performance for the ages. The Chicago Bulls went from the penthouse to the doghouse, or vice versa. And the Fighting Illini and Northwestern both get big wins locally in college basketball. That and a whole lot more as Second City Sports continues on this Friday Fun edition right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, But one of these days, a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Chinese.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on this Friday Fun Edition. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's Lakina. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80, that's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can find my kid again on the Twitter, X. I can't go in the IG.
We have less than 85 minutes left of this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk radio show. If you have any questions or comments for us, you can always find us at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
All right, Sid, let's go to the round ball here. The round ball segment here. We'll start with the pros first. Starting with the Bulls, I mean, all right, they get a bad loss against Detroit, going 2 for 29 from 3. But then a night later, shorthanded, no Alex Caruso. Happy belated birthday to Alex. He just turned 20. I think he just turned, is he 30 or
30?
I'm not 30. He just turned 30. My God, he's been around. It's been around for a while now.
Go figure.
Yeah, right. But no Caruso. Of course, we know that all the injuries to P. Will and Zach. Those guys are done for the year. They come back against the Cavs and shoot lights out from 3 and end up winning in a double overtime thriller against Cleveland. Because of course they did. 35 points for DeMar DeRozan. And that was just a very strange. Well, I guess those two games, last 2 games of Bulls, kind of perfectly describe how this team is. I mean, you thought that maybe everybody's saying, "Oh, we'll get rid of everybody," but then they beat the Cavs, and everyone's like, "All right." So they play Milwaukee tonight. We'll talk about the scheduling in a little bit, but that the whole last couple of games of Bulls are just strange, to say the least.
And that's why they're going to make the play-in tournament, Lakina, because we said it before for much of the season. We'll say it here. The Bulls, the games they're not supposed to lose, teams they're supposed to lose to, they lose to, like the Detroit Pistons. Shout out DeMar DeRozan for that 360 Kobe Bryant type move during that game the other night. But the games they're not supposed to win, they march out a victory against, i.e. the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's why they go into the play-in tournament. Now, do I see them hitting the ceiling past that? No. Like we said before, looking at the last couple of years, we'll say it here. This Bulls team is consistently inconsistent. And despite the injuries to Zach LaVine and Patrick Williams, remember, this was a problem with them for the last couple of years when most of the squad was healthy. So, like you said, Lakina, I was like, okay, nice job with that victory against the Cavs, but it really didn't tell me anything. Here's one of my all-time phrases that I like to use with some folks all the time. Tell me something I didn't know. Can you tell me something I didn't know from those last 2 games? No. Sorry, I answered for you, but
yeah, four players who were double figures was the first time that's happened in the NBA. I think since we're like 03 or something like that. So that's something that hasn't been done in years. And I guess, look, strangeness and whatever. But I mean, look, they actually are getting some contributions from guys like unsung guys off the bench. I mean, I want to make sure I get his name right because I've been practicing the guy's name all week. Narula Batum, I think, Batum, I think I said his name right. Hit a couple of shots. Julia Phillips, who didn't even play prior. That prior game against Detroit, hit a big 3 that kind of sparked that comeback because remember the Bulls were down, I think like 10 or something like that in the 4th. Mm-hmm. So I guess they're getting contributions from some of the young guys. Okay. Look, like I said, this is a microcosm of what the Bulls have been the last few years. I mean, nothing like they lose to the Pistons, but it ain't something. So watch they beat Cleveland and they do just that. So. What?
Yeah, shout out Andre Drummond, 17 points, 26 rebounds. I think he grabbed the most rebounds as a Bull since Dennis Rodman. So congratulations to him on a great performance. I know as a team, the Bulls grabbed a franchise high 74 rebounds, and it took them 2 overtimes to do it. Look, we've been begging for this team to play defense, especially within the interior, for the last 2.5 years. Mm-hmm. And they finally did it, but had to take a heroic effort to beat the Cavaliers, who are one of the hottest teams in the league right now. I know their record is now 38-20 on the year. We're talking about Cleveland, but the Bulls right now, even though there are 3 games under 500, they're not telling me something different that we already know. They're not. I'm not rooting for them to lose. If they win, cool, but give me something different. Right now, I'm not seeing it.
Very strange. Well, let's get away from the strangeness and go to some greatness here. Of course, LeBron James. Well, we'll get to the stuff that game because I actually watched it. I watched this game last night too. They needed overtime, but they did beat the Wizards 134-131. AD had a season high 40 points, and I think I'm not saying the Lakers are going to be in that see that top 6 seed in the West, but they are playing better. They're getting contributions from some of the guys on the bench, so I guess that's all you can ask for.
Yeah, I watched some of that game live last night too via this computer screen, and D'Angelo Russell had some big baskets. LeBron James had that one big block. I forgot who it was in overtime. That was a vintage LeBron James with his offhand, his left hand. It was a sweet shot block. And, of course, he had a left-handed dunk early in the game. But like you said, the Lakers, you could tell, we'll discuss this game in a minute, but you could tell the Lakers were fatigued from playing a great comeback win over the Los Angeles Clippers the night before. LeBron James, like we said before, he's having a great season at his age, 39, but you cannot continue to have him have these performances leading the team and scoring every night. That's where Anthony Davis will come in. All-Star Reeves, D'Angelo Russell has been playing well over the last month and a half. So, like we said before, for the Lakers, you got to get contributions from everybody around them. It looks like they're starting to finally pull it together. If you're a Lakers fan, you hope. But like you say, Anthony Davis stepped up big last night. And well, with the fatigue from the night before, I know on paper they shouldn't have had to tumble with the lowly Wizards, but they find their way to squeak out a win. They got a tough game tomorrow night, Saturday, against Denver on ABC, and then they're home for the next week, in which the schedule gets even tougher. So this win against Washington last night was very important for the purple and gold.
Denver pulled away from the Heat. Watched a little bit of this game too. Phoenix got all they can handle from Houston, but they pulled it out. I'll just do the important games. We won't do game by game. Golden State with a nice win at the Garden against the Knicks. Steph Curry looks like he's starting to find his shooting stroke again.
Also, too, Klay Thompson with 16 points off the benching. Nice to see Chris Paul back healthy. He made a contribution as well. On the flip side for the New York Knicks, Lakina, if everything goes well, hopefully OJ Anunoby and Julius Randle will both return to the lineup for the Knicks. As we said on our show on Monday, reviewing their loss last Saturday night against the Boston Celtics, we can see where the Knicks are without Randall and Anobi, and they're barely an average team at best. So they need Randall and Anobi back as soon as possible, because with the injuries to Philadelphia, and we got some news on Joel Embiid coming up in just a moment. With Milwaukee kind of figuring themselves out, Philadelphia kind of teetering around 500. We know Cleveland is on the heels in the fourth spot, the third spot, I believe, in the Eastern Conference. For the Knicks, they have all the guys healthy before the end of the season. They can make a move and have home court advantage again come playoff time, at least in the first round.
Well, the injuries are concerning. Look, hopefully, like you said, Anobi and Randall will be back because they really need them, and they've been struggling lately. And only Jalen Brunson can do so much by himself. As I can see, Sports on Chicago, Lee Keenan McGee, Cindy Brown, with you. Let's go into the Wednesday's game. The Clippers and the Lakers. The Clippers were up big, but LeBron James for the 18th time. They say the 18th time in his career outscored an entire opposing team in the fourth quarter by himself.
Yeah, LeBron James scored 19 points in that fourth quarter. The Clippers only 16. As the Lakers defeated the Clippers on Wednesday night in comeback fashion, 116-112. Paul George was MIA for the Clippers. Kawhi Leonard missed an easy runner with less than 5 seconds left. Lakina, this was LeBron James' best overall performance offensively for the season. It looked like every shot that he took from three-point range, he knocked down. He was just very inspired, and the Clippers didn't know what to do. And what will this loss do for the Los Angeles Clippers? I don't think it will do too much. Hopefully they don't go on a long losing streak. Even without Paul George, they should have won this game. But if you're a Clippers fan, shouldn't be too worried. Pay attention to them the way they play these next 2 or 3 games. If they come out flat or start feeling sorry for themselves, this could be trouble, because we talked about this during the All-Star break with our All-Star panel. The Clippers, they've been healthy for the majority of the year, and you saw what they could be. We saw where they are right now. But if they let this loss get to them with these next 2 or 3 games, it's going to be trouble, especially for a team that's really been with their potential being unfulfilled because of injuries in years past.
Gets a little bit they're set to actually do pretty well, so we'll see what happens. The Nuggets, no trouble with the Kings. Jamal Murray had 13 points leading the way for them, and I know our buddy Big Dave, he's been very adamant about no, don't count the Nuggets just yet, and you shouldn't. But yeah, are they getting hot at the right time? Sure, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see how it unfolds. It's going to get pretty interesting, especially these next couple of weeks. Like you said, you talked about the Lakers game that's going to come on tomorrow night. So we'll see. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, Jamal Murray may not play because he got injured last night with his ankle against Miami. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, that might be a problem for them. Minnesota, no trouble with Memphis. Dallas beat the Raptors. Luka had 30 points there. And on Tuesday's games, real quick, of course, Philadelphia got a nice big win against. Well, no, the Celtics actually beat Philadelphia, and they really need Embiid back. So hopefully, they get some good news here. Hopefully, this can they can come on his way back, because Philadelphia has definitely been struggling without him.
Yeah, word on Joel Embiid, their all-stars. He says that he's going to play again this season, but no timetable has been set. So, like you said, Lakina, the more I'm talking about Philadelphia continue to lose, the pressure will amp up that much more for Joel Embiid to return. But I caution Philadelphia and their fans this: you don't want Embiid with that bad knee to return too soon. Then what happens if he gets hurt again? This season, his season is over, and next year is going to be affected as well.
We'll talk about that down the line there. Cleveland edged out Dallas. Donovan Mitchell had 31 points there. Like I said, Golden State, doing very well on the road. Just took care of business against the Wizards. Like we talked about the Knicks lately and their struggles. They lose to the Pelicans, 115-92. Trey Murphy III had a career high 26 points for the Pelicans. And Miami, no trouble with Portland. OKC, no trouble with Houston. So overall, with the exception of LeBron being LeBron and not being human, we've known that for like the last 20 plus years. And of course, the craziness of the Bulls and what they didn't do. Not too much happening in the NBA this week.
Yeah, I was like you said the words are right in my mouth. Outside of the Bulls' foolishness and LeBron James being great, let's add this too. You mentioned with their last two games on this East Coast road trip, the Golden State Warriors looks like they finally started to turn it on. As I mentioned before in the last couple of shows, Draymond Green of the Warriors has been on his best behavior. 13-6 since return, and the Warriors, I believe, 4 games over 500 now. So, as we talked about before, don't count out the Warriors and when healthy. And so we'll see if they can finally, or they're finally making their move.
We'll see. They can finally figuring things out now. Let's go to this weekend's games. Sid, some good ones. You got Cleveland and Detroit at 6. Well, tonight, Friday.
Oh, real quickly, Keena, don't want to interrupt, but the Detroit Pistons, I know they lost a tough one on Tuesday to the New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden. That's why they got pissed off and took it out on the Bulls.
Oh, yeah.
The next night. Real quick, did Monty Williams, the head coach of the Pistons, did he have the right to complain following the game? Because there was 2 calls that were missed toward the end of the game that should have went against the Knicks instead of against the Pistons.
Yeah, I think he does have a little bit of a gripe there, and it was just kind of strange how all that kind of transpired. But it's got to get a little bit weird. But it looks like Detroit is starting to kind of figure things out. You saw what they did against the Bulls, so they're actually kind of starting to kind of like get together here. So yeah, he does have a little bit of a gripe, but they were kind of robbed of that upset. But yeah, they took it out on the Bulls, so the go figure with that one. Now going back into tonight's games, got Charlotte and Philadelphia at 6. You got should be a good one here. Dallas and Boston. That's the first game of the ESPN Friday night doubleheader at 6:30. Golden State, they're undefeated in their road trip so far. They place Toronto at 6:30. And Portland and Memphis at 7 o'clock.
Finishing out tonight's schedule, Friday, Sacramento's at Minnesota at 7. Indiana will visit New Orleans to take on the Pelicans. The lowly Wizards will play back-to-back games. Los Angeles will take on the Clippers tonight. And yes, the second half of that ESPN Friday night doubleheader tonight, the Milwaukee Bucks will travel here to Chicago to take on the sorry-ass Bulls at 9 o'clock. A 9 p.m. Central Standard Time game, Lakino, on a Friday night. Go figure.
Yay. Yeah, I know our buddy Big Dave Watson, Matt Pecker, probably not. Oh, maybe Dave might like it. I don't know. Matt might not be a big fan of it. So,
they'll probably do their post-game show 1 eye open each.
Yeah, probably. Adjust your clocks accordingly, folks. Tomorrow, Saturday, you got Atlanta and Brooklyn at 2. A little matinee there. Utah and Miami. That's going to be the NBA TV game at 4 o'clock. Portland and Memphis. Denver and Lakers 7:30. That's an ABC Saturday night game of the week. That's just a part of my singing there. Of course, Murray. We'll see if Murray plays. He got banged up last night against Miami, so we'll see if he's able to play tomorrow night. And Houston and Phoenix. Phoenix has had a pretty. I know I'm not repeating myself. They did play just like a home and home. So I'm not repeating myself, folks. They are playing the Kent tomorrow night. Houston and Phoenix.
All right, your Sunday schedule looks like this. Your Sunday afternoon doubleheader games on ABC starts at high noon with the Philadelphia 76ers visiting Dallas to take on the Mavericks at 2:30, followed by the Warriors and the Celtics as the Golden State Warriors continue their East Coast road trip. The rematch of the 2022 NBA Finals. That should be fun. The rest of your Sunday schedule looks like this. Los Angeles Clippers will face Minnesota Timberwolves at 2:30. The Pistons will play the Magic. Charlotte will visit Toronto. The Knicks and the Cavaliers will do battle rematch of last year's first round playoff series. That's at 6 o'clock on Sunday on ESPN. That's part of this ESPN Sunday night doubleheader. Indiana versus San Antonio. And the OKC Thunder will visit Phoenix at 8:30. That's the second half of the Sunday night doubleheader on ESPN. And that's your schedule from the Round the Association for this upcoming weekend.
This is Second City Sports on Chicago. Lakita McGee, Sidney Brown with you. And of course, let's stick with the round ball. So let's go to the college side as we're only about 3 weeks away from Selection Sunday and some big games still coming up. But before we get to that, some of the games from this week.
Yes, the Northwestern Wildcats defeated the Maryland Terrapins on the road by the score of 68-61. Boo Buie did not have his best game, but Barnheiser and Martinelli led the Wildcats with 27 points. The Northwestern Wildcats shot the ball well from the outside. They got their defensive intensity going once again, as we talked about all year long, Lakina. big ups to, as the kids would say, to head coach Chris Collins of Northwestern. They're now 20-7 on the year, I believe. 10-6 in the Big Ten. I believe they were tied for second with the Fighting Illini going into Wednesday night's action. But this team is a tournament team, Lakina, no doubt about it, especially with 20 wins. And as we said before in our last couple of shows, this Northwestern Wildcats team can finish strong in the regular season in the Big Ten. I'm not saying they need to win the Big Ten tournament. I'm talking about Northwestern, but if they can finish the regular season strong with a good showing and get a couple wins in the Big Ten tournament in a couple of weeks, I think their seeding can improve, because right now I think they're ranked 9th or 10th, wherever the region they're going to be put in. But if they finish strong here in the regular season and get a couple big wins in the Big Ten tournament, I think they could be seeded even higher.
It'll be interesting to see, but I still say they depend on the three a little bit too much. We saw what happened in some of their losses. So that 3-pointer, they were able to overcome that, because Boo Boo didn't have his best showing. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. We're going into some of the other games from the last few days. Of course, Wazoo with a nice rebound win over USC. St. Mary's over Pepperdine. Gonzaga trying to help their resume out. They did beat San Francisco, who they're in third place in the WCC. Memphis was a big win against East Carolina.
Woohoo!
Western Illinois beating Eastern Illinois. So they're right there to think of it in the Ohio Valley Conference. So they might get that number 1 seed. We'll see these next few games, because I think this is the last few games of the season for that conference. Wednesday's matchups, you got Tennessee. That was a big last few minutes from Dalton Nick. 39 points, a career high for him as they beat Auburn. Now, I know that'll make Sid happy. Marquette, no trouble with Providence. Arizona, no trouble with Arizona State. Iowa State, they're right there behind Houston, the Big 12. Kyle Flakowski did play. He had about 12 points as Duke beats Louisville pretty easily. Creighton edged out Seton Hall. Illinois beat Minnesota, but it was a very close game from Minnesota is rebuilding for the last few years. Now the strange thing about this game, real quick, they actually they scored over 95. They scored 97. They shot 70% or from three. I think 75%. It didn't have a lot of turnovers, yet they lost. So, if you're Minnesota, you're probably kicking yourself, because you could have pulled off the upset, but you didn't.
Yeah, there was no defense from the Golden Gophers, nor the Fighting Illini, especially toward the end of the game, when I thought they turned out the intensity. But the Illini shot the ball well. One of the best offensive statistics they displayed throughout this season. They shot the ball well from 45%. They shot it well overall at 61%. But the Illini had a +8 rebounding advantage over Minnesota, 31-23, and they only committed 4 turnovers. So the Illini played a great game. And as we talked about, Lakina, they had that bad loss around this time last week at Penn State. They rebounded against Iowa last Saturday afternoon, and they rebounded here on Wednesday against Minnesota. Now, Illinois, I believe they have 3 games remaining until now in the end of the regular season, so they need to finish strong. Right now, they're 21-7, second place in the Big Ten behind Purdue. So we see what this Illini team can be. Looking at everything hits on all cylinders, but when they depend too much on that 3-point shot and they become one-dimensional, trying to do things another way, they fail.
Should be very interesting. Like I said, Illinois could go to probably as far as the Elite 8, or they could end up losing the second round. That's how this team has been the last few years. Now, UIC lose a tough one to Drake in triple overtime. I saw a little bit of this game. That was a tough loss. That would have been a nice little morale boost for them. Illinois State edged out Missouri State. The battle of big wins for directional schools in Illinois. Bradley, no trouble with Southern Illinois. So now they're the number 2 spot right there behind Drake. In the Missouri Valley. I know they're finishing their games up. I'm talking about the Missouri Valley. So going to this week's games, not much for Friday. You got mostly Ivy League schools. Dayton and Illinois Chicago. That's tonight. That's a big one. Loyola had a tough loss against St. Bonaventure. They really need this to kind of stay within distance of the A10 tournament. That's going to be coming up not this weekend, but next week. And yeah, it's going to be very interesting. But yeah, I mean, look, Dayton's been really good all year. So I know in their first meeting, Dayton beat it pretty handily. So this is going to get a little bit interesting in this meeting in Chicago.
Yeah, that game's tonight at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time on ESPN2. Of course, the game is here in Chicago on the north side where Loyola Chicago is. Their campus is located. So the Loyola Ramblers, they need their home crowd behind them. Like I said, Dayton is a tough defensive team. They can score with you a little bit too, but Drew Valentine, his crew, they have a lot ahead of them. As we talked about with their victory last week against George Mason, even though it was a blowout, the Ramblers shared the ball very well, and they're very aggressive on defense. They need to bring that game plan into this game tonight against Dayton, which was who's a much better team.
Should be a fun one. Air Force and Utah State. That's at 10 o'clock on FS1. Going to Saturday's this weekend's games real quick. Tomorrow we got Florida and South Carolina. It's 11 a.m. on ESPN. That should be a good one. Kansas and Baylor at noon on ABC. That should be another fun one. Illinois against Wisconsin. I know Wisconsin, they've kind of been struggling lately.
They had a bad loss on Tuesday against Indiana.
I saw, and the weird thing about it is that they didn't play for like 10 minutes because there was some severe storms that hit, and it passed through Bloomington. Mm-hmm. They had to wait for like 10 minutes. So, but they may find themselves on the wrong side of the boat if they don't win this game tomorrow against Illinois. That's going to be on BTN at noon. Kentucky hosting Arkansas. That should be a good one on CBS at 12:30. 1 o'clock, an early game for all the Pac-12 fans. Arizona hosts Oregon. That's on ESPN. Let's see, anything else here? Marquette and Creighton at 1:30 on the Big Fox Network. That should be a fun one.
Yeah, Washington will host LeBron James' son, Bronny James, in the USC Trojans. Excuse me. And that's tomorrow at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time on CBS.
Iowa State and UCF. UCF hoping to kind of beef up their resume even more. That's going to be the Big 12 ESPN Plus network. North Carolina hosts North Carolina State. Mississippi State, they kind of been struggling lately. They'll face Auburn at 3 o'clock on ESPN2. South Florida, they're back in the top 25 for the first time in a while. They face Charlotte. No, not the... Now I'm talking about the Charlotte 49ers, not the Hornets. That's going to be on ESPN Plus.
Doubles, South Florida, that is.
Yes. I'm sure they probably use that a lot. The nightcap games.
Yeah, Northwestern will host Iowa tomorrow at 4:30, live from Evanston on Big Ten Network.
That should be a fun one.
Iowa's on the outside looking in as far as participating in the tournament.
Yes, UCLA and Wazoo on the Pac-12 Network at 6. Tennessee and Alabama, that's a big game on ESPN at 7. Houston and Oklahoma on ESPN2 also at 7. And Purdue on the Big Fox Network at 7 hosts Michigan State. Michigan State had a couple bad losses lately, so hopefully they can, they really need this to kind of like beef up that resume.
All right, couple of games quickly for Sunday. Seton Hall at number 3 UConn. That's at 11 o'clock Chicago time on CBS. Locally, we'll have Southern Illinois hosting Northern Iowa. That's at 1 p.m. on ESPN+. The Southern Illinois Salukis are 19-1. Northern Iowa Panthers are 17-13. So a big battle here in the Missouri Valley.
That realize there's a little bit of logjam about the top. And real quick for Saturday tomorrow, Gonzaga and St. Mary's. That's at 9 o'clock on ESPN. I really think Gonzaga needs this win. They need to beat St. Mary's to make sure they cement themselves, because if not, they're going to have to win the West Coast tournament, because I don't think they're in. I know some people say, well, they're just barely outside. No. They need to either beat St. Mary's or win the West Coast Conference tournament next week.
I agree, because according to ESPN's Joe Lunardi, he has Gonzaga as one of the first 4 teams out. So like you said, every game for the Gonzaga Bulldogs are very important here. It's just one other game of note for Sunday. Rutgers will travel to Nebraska to take on Fred Hoiberg's Cornhuskers. That's at 5:30 p.m. on Big Ten Network. Of course, Nebraska is 20-9 on the year. They can win all their home games. I'm talking about Nebraska, but they've been over on the road all year in Big Ten play.
Yeah, had a bad loss against Ohio State yesterday. So that I think they're still in, but again, if they could, they got a road game left, so they need to win that game and perhaps maybe win a game or two in the Big Ten tournament to perhaps maybe get cement their spot in the Big Dance coming up in a few weeks.
Stay tuned for more sports and more fun as Second City Sports Friday Fun continues with Scott Levis from the Barber Shares Network and Miss Christine the Queen Manika. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared. I mean, you're so...
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports on this Friday Fun edition. We're live in 11 color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakina McGee. I am Sydney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow Lakina McGee on the Twitter, X, and KXRB and the IG.
We have less than an hour left of this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for us, especially for our next guest, you can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. And just a daily reminder, you can catch Sports Zone Chicago live in 11 color, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, live and on demand on Roku TV.
Okay, Sid. We've been trying to get this guy on. Well, a few of his co-founders, for some time. I know you met them over at the Sox game. So introduce him, please.
Yes, he's from the Barber's Chair Network. He created a media empire from the city of Chicago, along with his brother Joseph Lewis. Here comes our guy. Also, I'm not going to hold you up. Podcast you can watch right here on YouTube, and you can listen to wherever you get your podcast. Here comes Mr. Scott Lewis joining the program. Scott, how are you, my man?
What's going on? How y'all feeling?
We're doing great. How about yourself?
Good.
Doing pretty good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed you guys' podcast. I know your guys' video went viral last week talking about Caleb Williams and what some folks will put his name out here right now. What Colin Cowherd from Fox Sports 1 said about the Chicago meal, what they've been doing or not doing. I'll let you have the floor for those folks that missed it. What do you think about this whole Caleb Williams situation right now? The guy hasn't even been drafted yet. I know that most of the media here in town, Chicago, has him. It's a foregone conclusion that the Bears are going to draft him, which means that Justin Fields is no longer going to be here. It's been a split, almost 50-50 down the middle with Bears fans. I just want to get your take on it.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. Definitely a pleasure to be on with you guys. Well, to me, it's like it's a split decision in Chicago because I feel like it's different outside of Chicago too, because I'm out here in Los Angeles. I cover the Clippers as well, and the outside perspective is funny because it's like to everybody outside Chicago is a no-brainer. Like it shouldn't even be a discussion. It should be Caleb Williams and go with him. In Chicago, I feel like it's more of a civil war because we know as Chicago sports fans, we get emotionally attached to players. Like when we don't want to let them go. There was a certain similar situation with Derrick Rose like 8 years ago after they traded him and they were about to build the team around Jimmy Butler. They had that, but it's like as far as like the outside media, you have people like that who think it's just a no-brainer and they think that Justin isn't just not good. I think both sides of the argument are very extreme. Like I think people who think Caleb's going to come out and be Dan Marino in year one, I'm like that's just not going to happen like that. Like, CJ Stroud was a very rare situation. Things like that don't happen all the time. And even Patrick Mahomes, he sat his whole rookie year. So he came in the next year and he was in a great situation with Andy Reid. So most of the times rookie quarterbacks struggle. And I do think that Caleb probably will have his struggles, even though I feel like this is the best situation for a first overall pick, maybe since Andrew Luck, because that was still, they had the same team. Peyton Manning just got injured. So as far as like, Colin Cowherd, it was very uninformed because if you've been paying attention to Chicago media, they've pretty much been doing all but kicking Justin Fields out. like you have, a couple people who are like, no, you need to stay and build around him. But for the most part, people got that Caleb Williams pom-poms out already. So that to me was uninformed. And, to me is, and like we said on the show, we blame the producers more than we blame him. Like I'm not expecting Colin Cowherd, who has 100 sports to cover, he's a national show, to be focused on the Chicago Bears. So that it was funny to me as well. But the whole thing to me is just a bit of extremes. And I get it because the Bears have never had a franchise quarterback before. I mean, the best quarterback we've had in the modern era is Jay Cutler. And so everybody wants to be right so bad, but I don't feel like there's enough nuance in this conversation for me, at least.
Well, Scott, for me, it's always been like, oh, you draft Williams, okay, fine, but it's not like you're not a Super Bowl contender with just him. I mean, you still got other holes. So, how do you feel about those folks that say that? Well, you know what? All you need is Caleb Williams. Boom, there you go. They're an NFC contender.
I think they're right and they're wrong. I say they're right because the NFC is the JV league of the NFL. I think from this year, you can see that there's no really like supreme threat. Like the AFC has the Avengers of quarterbacks. You've got Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. I think Justin Herbert is going to be amazing this year with Jim Harbaugh. So that's a little tougher road to get in the NFC. Like the Eagles started 10-1, then completely fell off the map and didn't do anything. The Cowboys fail every year. Detroit Lions had a good year, but I don't know about y'all. I'm not really worried about the Detroit Lions long term. I'm just not. With as bad as the Bears messed up this year, they still had a chance to go 10-7 and actually make the playoffs. They actually should have swept the Lions. So you have that. To me, there's no actual guy that's in your way of contending, but I do feel that it'll be a better situation than when Justin came into, a much better than situation Justin came into. And what we do see is if you have a really good quarterback, he covers up a lot of the holes. I mean, the Packers, won the division and got to NFC championships just off the strength of Aaron Rodgers. I'm not saying I'm comparing him to Aaron Rodgers, but I do understand their sentiment. But at the same time, you have to build around them to where it's like, you can actually do that. I don't think the Bears will be a Super Bowl contender next year, but I do think even if Caleb has an average year, they can be NFC North contender at the absolute most. So I think it's that. So I think it's a mix of he has the potential to do it, but I just don't see it being right away. But on the flip side of that, and this is why I say like nuance, you have a lot of Justin Fields super supporters who act like he's just going to become Lamar Jackson overnight. And I just don't think that's realistic as well. I think that, from his situation, yeah, he was failed by the coaches. They didn't really build anything around him. And to be honest, like when you're drafted by lame duck general manager and lame duck coach, you're being set up to fail. And from what I've seen and being at the games this year, yes, Justin has flashes. He has some games where it's like, yo, you got to keep this dude. But then he has some games where I'm literally screaming from the press box, throw the ball. Like, he does stuff that you're not supposed to do as a third-year quarterback. And if you're Ryan Poles, what you got to ask yourself, are you willing to bet your job on this? And especially as a black general manager. If you're a white general manager, you can mess up and still get a job. Ryan Pace picked Mr. Trubisky over Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson, and he just got a promotion in Atlanta. Ryan Poles will never get a job again if he messes this up. So you have that, and you have the financial situation. You got to pay Justin. So there's so many other things outside of the football that's impacted this. And I feel bad for Justin because it's a unique situation. If the Bears had the 5th pick, this wouldn't even be a discussion. You would try to maybe trade up to get one of those receivers and build around them. So it's I can see both ways with this topic. Also getting lost in all this, Scott. Matt Eberflus will be entering his 3rd year next year. You know this as well as I do. If you're a veteran head coach or a new head coach in the NFL, and the great Dick Vermeil said it best, if you haven't won in your first 2 years, you go into your 3rd year. If you don't win, you'll get the pink slip and the link card, as we say on this show. So I think that's getting lost in the sauce as well. My next question to you is, putting the whole Caleb Williams potential draft pick aside, what do you think the Bears' plans are for free agency, which will start in the next couple of weeks? Well, from what I've been hearing, the word is they're not going to spend too much money. I think they're going to take the same approach as they took last year, where they might have like a splash signing or two. I think the splash signing last year was Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards, which they came out really, really well, had great seasons. And I think they're going to be smart about what they're spending. Me personally, I would love for them to, make a splash signing, you know what I'm saying? Go out there. I don't think they're going to get Chris Jones because I'm pretty sure Chris Jones is going to do whatever he has to do. And I think the Chiefs are going to do whatever they have to do to keep him, even if it's a 1 or 2 year deal, so they can try to three-peat. I think that being on the table probably takes the Bears out of the running, but I would at least attempt to do that. I would love to see Saquon Barkley. I think we talk about, I'm glad, everybody's so focused on the quarterback. There's other issues with this team. You need a wide receiver to help out DJ Moore. Like the Chase Claypool experiment didn't work out. Tyler Scott was a rookie, but he had too many drops. Justin would probably have 4 more touchdowns if Tyler Scott had better hands in a couple games. So you need a better wide receiver. I think you need more offensive line help. Darnell Wright was great. Tevin Jenkins is great when healthy, but the when healthy part is very, very key. I am not a Braxton Jones fan whatsoever, so I will get more help on that too. But the running back room, I'm not sold on either. I like Khalil Herbert. I like Roschon Johnson. I think Roschon will be really good, maybe like a year or two. Khalil Herbert to me is a complimentary back. So if you can go out there and you can go sign a Saquon Barkley, who, get him for a 1 or 2 year deal, maybe give him a lot of money up front, and you add that with him, I like that. So there's guys like that. We're hearing about though T. Higgins got tagged, but they're willing to trade T. Higgins. Really, I want to see just how aggressive is Ryan Poles, because as a Bears fan, I'm looking at it as like, okay, if you assuming that 99% chance you're going to get Caleb Williams, I would give him everything possibly that I possibly can. And I don't want to keep hearing about next year. We're thinking long term. It's the NFL. Get it while you got a chance right now. The NFC North is going to be competitive, and you still have a chance to win it. So I hope they go the big spending route, but I don't think. I think it'll be smart signings, and they'll probably do the rest in the draft.
Now, what would you do? I'm going to have you put your GM hat on for a second, Scott. I mean, what would you do? Would you try to maybe trade the number 9 pick and try to get a Hall, maybe get a Roma Dune, or maybe draft a Roma Dunes or Marvin Harrison Jr.? So what do you think? I mean, it looks like they're gonna move out of the number 1 spot. So what about the 9th pick? Would you try to do something with that?
Well, 9th pick is great, and I'm glad. It's crazy. That's how you know it's such a big, quarterback draft, because nobody's talking about the fact the Bears have 2 top 10 picks. Like, that's like franchise changing right there. I would trade up. We're hearing rumors from the combine today that the Cardinals are trying to trade back. The Chargers are trying to trade back. I would go out there and try to get you a Marvin Harrison Jr. or Malik Neighbors. Those two, I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is the only generational talent in this draft to me. I like Caleb. I think Caleb's going to be really, really good. I've watched pretty much every USC game the last 2 years being out here in the Los Angeles area. I've seen all of it, but I feel like Marvin Harrison Jr. is like generational. And I don't think Malik Neighbors is that far off either. So if you're able to get one of those two, I think in a great position, they could possibly fall in 9. But if you're Ryan Poles, like I just said, take advantage of this opportunity. I would trade up. I would call Arizona like, look, we'll give you the 9th pick, or maybe give you a 2nd rounder, give us the 4th pick. And then y'all can still get you a good player. You can get you offensive lineman to help Kyler Murray out. And, you know what I'm saying, you don't get out the top 10. The Bears go out there. If you can leave Detroit, Michigan on the 25th of April with Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr., that might be the best draft in Chicago Bears history.
One more question from me, Scott, before we move on to the NBA. Of course, Jalen Johnson is a free agent, defensive back from the Bears. Is it a no-brainer that the Bears are going to pay him? And if so, how will they do this? Will they screw him and put the franchise tag on him, or do you think they'll put their heads together and work out a long-term deal?
I think that it will be a long-term deal. And one thing, too, I think the tag, and one thing that I think people got to understand about the tag, too, is just because if they tag him, you got to July to actually come up with an actual long-term deal. I think that he 100% is going to come back. There's mutual respect between Jalen Johnson and Ryan Poles. They both have said, Jalen says he's going to be a Bear forever, and Ryan Poles said that he's not going anywhere. I think there's one thing that's very important about what Ryan Poles said in his combine interview, I think on Monday press conference. Nobody asked him about Jalen Johnson. He brought it up and basically said, all the numbers are right. The guarantees are right. We set him up to be wealthy for the rest of his life. We don't want to use the tag. Basically, I took that as a translation to his people. That's our deal. Y'all either take it or we just going to tag you and we're going to have to figure something out. So I think that's more of a leverage play for them, but I don't see any scenario where he's gone. I do think that, the closer we get to March 5th, it gets a little dicey. We haven't seen that. But even if you look at all these tags have been placed, nobody's agreed to an extension yet. So I do think that when the dust is settled in about 4 days from now, there will be a long-term contract, because I think that they'll come to a middle ground, because they both, Poles wants him here, Jalen wants to stay there. So I do think that they will come together on that.
Going into, as we're talking to our new friend Scott Lewis here from the Barber Network on Second City Sports on Sports Chicago, Keenan McGee, Sneak Brown with you. Switching gears here, talking some NBA. Now, we'll save our own sanity by not talking Bulls first, because personally, I would rather not. But the rest of the NBA as a whole, Scott, any surprises? Do you think Denver's a team to beat? Do you see the Clippers, perhaps, especially with that comeback loss, against LeBron and the Lakers? On the East side, you've got Boston, Milwaukee. They're starting to kind of figure it out a little bit with Doc. So, what's your synopsis of the NBA so far?
I think number one that the Nuggets are the team to beat. I am a little bit concerned about Jamal Murray's injury last night. He tweaked his ankle. Hopefully that's not too severe. But they got Joker, and Joker is he's a matchup nightmare for everybody. And they're doing the thing the champions do. Well, you tread water. You tread water into like these last 20, 25 games, and you try to get into a top 4 seed. I think the West is wide open. This thing about the Clippers, I cover the Clippers. I was in the building on Wednesday, and that was an incredible performance by LeBron. And I really all started when he dapped up Jay-Z, because they was up 20 points. I'm like, all right, I might want to leave, bro. Like, get ready to head to the media room, and then. LeBron got back in the game. I told my homie who was up there, I was like, why is he checking back in? This thing is over. He dapped up Jay-Z. He just put up like some random 3. I was like, that's not gonna be. He just got hot. And then James Harden went MIA. Kawhi Leonard looked like he wanted to be anywhere but there. So the Clippers have the talent when healthy. Paul George didn't play. Zubac didn't play because he had the flu or something like that. So if they're healthy, they have the talent. And I'm not a James Harden fan, whatever. I think that James Harden Joel Embiid got off scot-free last year because of James Harden having another collapse, because he didn't do nothing either. But that's just the reputation that James Harden has. But I think with the Clippers right now, it's like, if you don't get it done now, when are you ever going to get it done? Because Steve Ballmer, one of the best owners in basketball, he's done everything to get this team to where they need to be. I think Ty Lue is a great coach. I don't think Ty Lue gets enough credit for the way he's kept the Clippers in this whole thing this last couple of years with injuries and, dealing with COVID and all that other stuff. So I still think on paper they have a great chance. But what happened on Wednesday is the stuff why nobody believes them. And I'm actually glad they're getting a new arena, which I don't know how it's going to help that much. It sounded like a Lego home game up in there. Like it was ridiculous when D'Angelo Russell hit that game clinching three. It was, you would have thought it was Game 7 of the NBA Finals. It was ridiculously loud in there. So I think them moving to Inglewood will help. This is also Laker Dodger country, where they're the only teams that really matter. So I don't know if they're going to help too much. But as far as the Lakers is the same thing. We're just talking about the Lakers and the Warriors right now because they have LeBron James and Steph Curry. I think that, Warriors, they intrigue me more than the Lakers because since Draymond has got back, they've played really well. They've won 15 out of the last 20 games. Big win against the Knicks last night. So I think that they're more well-rounded than the Lakers. But the Lakers, I can't really go against them either because if you look at the first round, first of all, the play-in is going to be ridiculous because you got 4 teams. You got the Phoenix Suns, Sacramento Kings, Golden State Warriors, Los Angeles Lakers. Those are 4 teams that if I'm a top 2 seed, I don't want to play. Especially if those top 2 seeds, the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Oklahoma City Thunder, who don't have as much experience, especially the Thunder. Thunder have no experience. At least the Wolves been in the playoffs last 2-3 years. So I still wouldn't want to play a veteran team like the Warriors or the Lakers in the first round, just because that's 8 championships in between LeBron and Steph Curry. They've been there before. They know what it takes to win. But I just think it's just too much for both teams. Like, you're relying too much. Even that win against the Clippers, it took a historic LeBron James comeback, the biggest comeback he's had in his career, just to beat a team that's missing 2 starters. So that might be my problem with that. I still think in the West it will be the Nuggets. But I think in general, the team that we need to be looking at is the Boston Celtics. If they can't get it done this year, they will never get it done. Because at this point, it's like I know Jason Tatum's only, 25 years old, but he's been in the league since he was 18. He's been to 4 conference finals. He went to an NBA finals. Last year, they had no business losing to the Miami Heat. None. They should be embarrassed for that. So if they can't get it done this year, they got to make some decisions. So to me, that would be the team I would be looking at. But I still think Milwaukee's going to have something to say. When you have a guy like Giannis and Dame Lillard, and I feel like they're starting to play better now with, Doc Rivers and them finally, getting some things together. And Doc Rivers got to stop acting like somebody put a gun to his head to take this job. Like you're not going to make me feel sorry for you for making $40 million. I'm sorry. So, but overall, I think it's going to be entertaining playoffs because it's not really like a clear-cut favorite. But if I had to pick right now, I would probably say the finals would probably be what people wanted last year, and that was Denver and Boston.
We hand down the home stretch with our guy from the Barber's Chair Network, Scott Lewis, right here on Second City Sports on the Friday Fun Edition, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakina here with you. Scott, I want to go to MVP, of course, Joel Embiid. The statement came out today that he says that he's going to come back, but there's no timetable. Of course, now with that 65-game rule, he's ineligible to win MVP. My first half MVP is Anthony Edwards from the Minnesota Timberwolves. That team has had a great year, and Anthony Edwards has taken this game to another level. As if you had a vote today, if the season would have ended today on March 1st, who would be your MVP and why?
If I had to vote today, I would give it to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Just because he leads the league in 40-point. I think last night was his 41st 30-point game, even though Wembanyama went crazy on him last night. But that, and they lost. But he's been great. And I think everybody had the Thunder as like a playoff playing team this year. Nobody had them being the 2nd seed in the Western Conference in the game behind Minnesota. So I'm not mad at Anthony Edwards thing. I think the thing that's going to probably hold them back is they've been in the playoffs the last couple of years, and the Thunder just made such a massive leap. Even with Anthony Edwards, I think a reason that's just as big as him they've been good is Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert has been basically Defensive Player of the Year. He's changed everything about that. So I personally would give it to Shai if I had to vote today. But I think the Jokic is going to come up. If Jokic can get one of them top 2, top 3 seeds, and the way he's been hooping, he might be able to steal another one.
Oh, I'm sure he'll love that, or maybe not. I don't know, but well, speaking of those guys like Jokic and Doncic, and the young guys like Edwards and Gilgeous-Alexander, do you think the NBA needs to do a better job? Sid and I have been talking about this for the last couple of weeks. The NBA really needs to do a better job of promoting their younger stars. Like, we talked about, Jokic might be winning his 3rd MVP, Doncic, and outside of that, of course, LeBron and Steph, but also you got these up-and-comers like, Edwards and Gilgeous-Alexander. So for me, I think, and I'll pose this question to you, do you think that the NBA needs to start promoting some of the younger talent that's coming up?
I think it's a group thing. I think the NBA needs to do a better job because we have a game like last night when you got Victor Wembanyama, who's the number 1 draft pick, and I feel like he's exceeded all the lofty expectations that he had last year. It was kind of like the Caleb Williams thing a little bit. Hey, brother, he's the next LeBron James, and it's like now it's like if he's playing like this, he's a year away from even be able to legally drink alcohol. What's he gonna look like when he's 27? Like, so I feel like that, and you have him against a good team in Oklahoma. That should have been a TNT game. So I think for that point, yeah, they need to do a better job of that. But I blame the actual young players way more than I blame the NBA. I think the NBA is doing probably as much as they possibly can at the moment. But the younger players got to care more. Like the All-Star game was some of the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. Like it was, nobody tried. It was, I feel like it was a slap in the face. Like you shouldn't have to have Dr. J, Larry Bird, and Andre Iguodala come to you and tell you grown millionaires, hey, maybe you should play hard in the All-Star game. It's a privilege to be an All-Star. And the crazy thing about it to me, too, is if these players would have missed the All-Star team, they'd have been crying about it. So I feel like they need to do a better job, but I also feel like it's a generation thing. You know, I'm probably going to sound like an old head, but it's like with a generation thing, was like I don't think they care about it as much as the older generation do. And I actually kind of blame some of the OGs. If you have a LeBron James and, you know, he doesn't show up all weekend until the Sunday of, you got some of these kids who think they're on the same level, which is asinine. Like, oh, if LeBron ain't got to show up, well, I got to show up. Well, LeBron's been in the league 21 years. He has that thing that he can do. But I also feel like they're not having these conversations with them. Like, I don't know if you guys saw Kevin Garnett on his podcast last week. He was like, when we was coming up, we had the Jordans, the Ewings, the Shaqs, you know, putting us up on game. Gary Payton. There's not that either. So I think it's a mix of, you know, the younger kids maybe not caring about that the way they need to. But if I'm the NBA, I need to be looking at Wembanyama. Wembanyama to me is a marketable guy. You know, he has a personality. I think we saw that a little bit during All-Star weekend in the interview with Chuck and Kenny and Shaq. And then even last night when he had that big game and he's going out there and he's cussing, he's having the fans do go Spurs go. To me, that's who I will personally build around. So I think it's a thing that both need to work on.
Last question for me, Scott, before we spring you. Of course, I mentioned at the top, you and your brother Joseph have done great things throughout the Chicagoland area, teaming up with the bigs and starting your own media company now. You have a couple of podcasts on your network. For those that don't know about the origins of you and your brother's story, how the Barber Shares Network got started, tell us very quickly, how did you get started and what's your plans for the future?
Well, we originally started our podcast, 79th and Hollis, 9 years ago, 2015, like before podcasts became like big, where everybody had one. But we've been Bears fans since birth. And it wasn't something we're going to make a podcast. We're going to chase this as a career. We just wanted to talk about, you know, sports. You know, I moved to Los Angeles 10 years ago. So, you know, it's like not like I was home and, you know, had the debates that we used to have. So it just started off with something fun. And during that time, I worked at Amazon Studios, a movie studio, and I just had like, it was one of those times where I was just like on the brink a little bit because I would be in these meetings and you got these big studio heads telling us what Black people want to see in their content. Mind you, I'm the only Black person in this room. And I'm like, yeah, it's not really what we want to see. So I was just kind of thinking like, what's ways we can do this? So I was like, let's just make a sports media company. So I came up with the idea in 2017, and I reached out to my brother, reached out to our partner, Pierce. And I was like, let's just do this. My brother came up with the name, was like, yo, what's the number one place for a Black conversation about stuff like that? He was like, the barbershop. Like, I remember going to the barbershop when I was a kid, you know, and we would have all these outlandish conversations. Some of the earliest sports debates I can remember was going to, you know, Mr. Ellis's barbershop. It's not there anymore, but it was in West Inglewood area, and they would be in there just arguing Bulls Jazz like during the finals. I used to remember that stuff. So I was like, that's a good name. So we started off with that, and then, you know, first day we launched was January 1st, 2018. And then, you know, we've been doing that for a little bit. And then my brother linked up with our homies, Terrence and Gene from the Bigs. They needed somebody to hold down their Bears coverage. So my brother did it for the COVID year when there wasn't any fans in there. And then, you know, after a while, you know, we left and we were able to get our own credentials. So we built a good relationship with the team, and they gave us our own barbershop credentials. So me and my brother have just been covering the team since the 2021 season together. And it's been something where it's been fun. Like, we go to all the games, home and road. We go to the practices. You know, I spend the second half of the year in Chicago during the football season, and then, you know, I come back to LA and I do, you know, basketball, and I live out here. So it's kind of like a balance. But really, right now, I feel like the main thing is we're doing my show, I'm Not Gonna Hold You, which I started doing June 2021. It was just me, honestly, just me for like 2 years. And then I wanted to switch it up a little bit. I was like, I feel like I'm good at this, but I'm better if I have a crew to like bounce off. You know, I'm a big fan of like the Pat McAfee show, Dan Le Batard show, Rich Eisen. And those are shows that like have, you know, they have a main host, you got a cast. And even a show that's not sports, that's off now, but Desus and Mero, those were big like media, you know, guys who I admire. I had a chance to meet them when their show was on, and they brought the comedy aspect to it. And so I wanted to bring that too. And so we've been doing a new format of I'm Not Gonna Hold You for the last 6 months. It's me, the homie JR Bain, my guy Dante Miles, my guy Mikey, and the homegirl Courtney. And we've been rocking. You know, we've had a lot of people on. You know, I've been able to talk to Taylor Rooks. We've had, you know, different Bears beat reporters on. We've had actors on from Power, you know, and today we've got Jonathan Hood from Captain J Hood Morning Show. He'll be joining us today. So it's just been a fun day. We're just building, you know, all together, and you know, we've been getting a lot of feedback. So and players notice, you know, because Eddie Jackson definitely knew when I said he couldn't tackle.
Oh,
like,
but
yeah, but it's been fun.
All right. Well, this has been so much fun, Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. And we're definitely going to have you back on where people can find all the great content from the Barber Show Network.
You can follow me at Barber Chair Scott. It's all on my socials. You know, that's where all the I'm Not Gonna Hold You stuff. You know, if you go on Instagram or Twitter and use the hashtag INGHY, it'll take you to all of the content. You can visit the bcnet.com. And that's our website with everything on there. You can visit our Patreon, patreon.com/Barber's Chair Network. That has everything, like all exclusive. So like when we do the show, I know everybody's not going to sit down and watch a 2-hour, 2.5-hour show. So I usually like make clips. So if you want full segments, and like I do like a Patreon show on Wednesday, we got all of that. And we got a real fun show on the Patreon called Summer Sessions, which is basically my group chat in audio form. So we keep that behind a paywall. So if you want to hear the madness that we talk about on there, you're going to go on there. But you also just look up the Barber's Chair Network on any podcast platforms. We on all of them, and you'll see all our stuff on there.
All right. Thank you very much once again for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. Much continued success. We're definitely going to have you back on again. Keep up the great work, and we'll talk again soon, okay?
Thank you. I appreciate it. Just let me know. I'm down to come back.
All right.
All right. Thank you very much. Take care.
Yes, sir.
All right, Scott Lewis from the Barber's Chair Network here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. We got our other girl, Christine Manika from KXRB, on deck. We'll chat with her coming up. We'll talk about all the latest sports topics and a whole lot more. Lakina McGee, City Bound, Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. More fun coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
We rolling on this Friday afternoon. Yes, you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. We're live in living color. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my Kitty Mickey on the Twitter, X, I can't forget the IG.
We have less than a half hour left of this extravaganza. We call it Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for us, this is our last break of the show for today and for the week. So get those last minute questions or comments in. You can always find us at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
Okay, Sid, we got our girl on deck. Let's not be a waste of time. Let's get her on here. She is from KXRB. You know, our girl, she's your girl, Miss Christina, the Queen of Manika. Hey, Christine.
Hello, guys. How are ya?
You're doing great. How about yourself?
Oh, we're doing good.
Oh,
right.
Perfect. No, go ahead.
Let's
Sid.
start. We'll start off with the Bears. Christine, of course, the NFL Combine is off and running in Indianapolis. Caleb Williams, the rookie quarterback. Many people think he's going to be selected by the Bears. We still got another month and a half before all this is settled. I'm using air quotes here, but Caleb met with the media early today. He talked about how he doesn't not play for fortune and fame. He plays for the love of the game, that he thought Chicago was a great city. He thought that the Bears are a great situation, even though they were 7-10 last year, having the number one pick. What do you think about this whole Caleb Williams saga? And at least if you look on Twitter and listen to some sports radio in Chicago, that the fans base is split. One half wants Caleb Williams, one half wants Justin Fields to stay. What do you think about all this?
You know, I think it's a good sign that Williams is talking so highly about Chicago and being in such an elite city and being a part of a great team like the Bears, because that wasn't the case. You know, a couple of months ago when we heard people say, Caleb Williams doesn't want to go to Chicago. Oh, he wants them to trade the pick away. And I think it just goes to show you that he's probably getting trained, A, better in the media, or B, his people are a big influence on him. So I think he needs to realize that he has to separate himself from his people as to who he is as a player. As far as the playing aspect goes, I am a little bit hesitant just because he was so lucky at USC. It's helps when you have a good offensive line. And we've already talked about this scenario before. The NFL is so different from college football nowadays. It's vastly different. And it's not just about running in a straight line or having the best block. It's about being phonetic in your movements and being able to change your game plan on the dime. You can't be robotic in the NFL like how you normally are in college to stick to your routine. You got to be able to kind of step out of the box a little bit. And it's going to be interesting to see if the Bears do pick up Caleb Williams, if he is someone that's going to be phonetical like that and someone that kind of steps out of that box.
What do you think about the number 9 pick? Some people said that maybe they should trade it back, or our new buddy Scott Lewis said, "Hey, then why don't you try to trade up?" So, what do you think? I mean, do you give like a Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Roman Duze? So, what do you think? What do you think the Bears should do with that number 9 pick? So, like they're gonna say at 1.
It's definitely interesting that they need a new quarterback, they need a new center and all that stuff. So I think it's valuable in this case to keep that number 9 pick just because you do need a center. And if Marvin Harrison Jr. happens to be available still, which I would be surprised if he goes that far down in the first round to the number 9 spot, I think that would be a good opportunity for the Bears to tack on that extra weapon and Marvin Harris Jr. there.
Free agency starts in a couple of weeks, Christine. I believe on March the 13th. Of course, the Bears have the 4th most salary cap space in the league. Do you think the Bears will quote unquote go all in, or do you think they'll be conservative just like they were a year ago?
I think if someone offers them for a first round pick and to get like a Snead, he's out there in the open now that he got let go by the Kansas City Chiefs. If there is an opportunity to get another big player, I'm not talking about someone that's, he's so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. I'm talking like a Justin Jefferson, a Travis Kelce, a Snead, someone big enough to make it worth the Bears getting rid of their pick for. It can't just be a mediocre player or someone that was good. It has to be someone who's top of the line right now. And I think Ryan Poles made that pretty clear when he did his talk with the media the other day, is that they're not just going to be giving this pick away. And I kind of suspected that as the weeks have been going on here. But the more that I think about it too, it's in their best interest to probably keep that pick. Especially since, the Bears are doing that song and dance again with the media saying, we're going to come up with a quarterback decision. We're going to do this eventually, blah, blah, blah. And I know the last couple of years, it's because they've had the number 1 pick to get that type of reaction. But for us Bears fans who deal with, that organization and see and hear what they say every year, it's the same song and dance. It's the different stories, same song and dance of like the going back and forth. So it would be nice to know what their decision is going to be. But yeah, that's my thoughts about when it comes to free agency. And if someone offers them something for the first round pick, it's got to be something big, and it's got to be something that's worth their time looking at.
Let's talk about the NFL as a whole, Christine, because that extra $30 million that each team is going to have, for the bump in that salary cap. I mean, just think about it. A lot of teams are in the hole that will help them, freshen up a little bit. We'll see if Baltimore can add some more O-line help, or San Fran, perhaps with the Ayuk situation. So, what do you think the extra $30 million is going to do? Not just for the Bears, but also for every team in the NFL, pretty much.
I'm trying to think about, I think it would do well for, in particular, in my mind, the Pittsburgh Steelers, because they did struggle a lot this year. And I think they're on their way from moving on from Kenny Pickett. They already let go Trubisky. And Mason Rudolph is looking like could be a guy, or at least one of the guys that they're going to be sticking with. But if they can get another big quarterback as part of free agency, if they let someone go, I can see that the free agency and the draft benefiting them in a big way when it comes to getting a new quarterback potentially. The Patriots, same situation too. They've just been stinking the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. And Gerard Mayo, he wants to make a presence in the NFL. He really wants to make a mark for himself for his first season, especially. So he's going to do what he can to get this team back to the dynasty of Tom Brady and Julian Edelman and, all those guys, Rob Gronkowski.
We're not going to ask you to bring your husband into this one. My next question, Christine, but Russell Wilson says that he wants to stay with the Denver Broncos. We know why, because he will be guaranteed $37 million from the next year. But you know as well as I do, Sean Payton, the head coach, doesn't want anything to do with them, so they're going to cut him any day now. But who in your mind is the best free agent quarterback out there this offseason? You have Russell Wilson, you have Kirk Cousins from Minnesota, and you potentially will have Baker Mayfield if him and Tampa Bay cannot come up with the deal. In your mind, or is it somebody else we're not thinking about? Who in your mind would be is the best veteran QB in free agency?
It's definitely Kirk Cousins. I mean, even though he had his Achilles injury last season, if you saw what he did the season before, he totally dominated the NFC with him and the Vikings. And, the Vikings fans around here, they were expecting something big from him this year. And unfortunately, he went down with that horrible Achilles injury. So for the sake of Minnesota, I really hope that he stays with the Vikings. I think he's great for the fans. I think he's great for the team. I think he fits well with the environment in Minnesota. And there was a funny picture of him going to see his dentist, and he had the gold grills on. I mean,
yes.
I think that was like a secret innuendo for like his teammates to say, "Hey, I still want to go with you. I still want to." Have fun and continue the Kurt two chains, whatever you want to call him now, Kurt Chains, something like that. Right, exactly. So, and I think he would be a huge asset to wherever he ends up, but I think it's in his best interest and in Minnesota's best interest to have him stay on as the guy and eventually, maybe it's this draft or the next draft, Minnesota gets a quarterback and Kirk can train him with his guidance. And I know he would be a good role model for that.
Yeah, Saquon Barker is another name that's being thrown around perhaps maybe as a free agent, should the Giants decide not to tag him. So I know some people say that maybe the Bears should try to, get him. And, I know that Alexander Matt, so speaking of Minnesota, they released him.
Mm-hmm.
So he could probably be a nice pick over there. So what do you think about Saquon Barker and perhaps maybe a fit for the Bears or any of the teams?
I think, Saquon Barkley, no doubt, one of the best players who's ever played the game, right? But this year, he really didn't do anything. He was silent. And when we were watching games, I would just be like, where is Barkley? Like, is he on the field? Is he hurt? He was there. He just wasn't making any plays. He wasn't getting any touches, no catches, anything like that. He was completely silent. So knowing the Bears' history when it comes to has-been players, it's never a good situation. And as much as some Bears fans are probably saying, yeah, let's get Barkley, let's get him on the team, I wouldn't want that. I feel like that could be a bad recipe for disaster like it was for Chase Claypool last year, how ego and just everything like that kind of gets in the way and clouds the rest of the team's judgment. So again, I think it would be good for the Bears not to pick him up if that was an option.
We're hanging out with our homegirl, Miss Christine, the Queen Manika from KXRB in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. She's with us on our regular Friday spot right here on Sports Zone Chicago, Second City Sports. Sid Lakina hanging out here with you. Let's go over the basketball, Christine. I'll get my Bulls angst out the way. Of course, there are 3 games under 500 at 28-31. They'll host the Milwaukee Bucks on ESPN tonight at 9 o'clock. Why the late start time in the Central Time Zone, I don't know, but I digress. The Bulls, as I said to Lakina earlier, the Bulls, they lose to Detroit, one of the worst teams in the league, on Tuesday. They turn around on Wednesday. They had to take a miraculous 74 rebound performance as a team effort to beat the Cavaliers in double overtime. I said this to Lakina in our last hour. The Bulls haven't shown anything different all season long. This is the same song and dance from last season. Now this season you have Zach LaVine and Patrick Williams both out with foot injuries. And I said this Bulls team, just like last year, they're a playing team at the end of the year and being on the outside looking in at the playoffs. Do you see that same scenario this year, or do you think we're going to have some quote-unquote miracle run in them?
I think it's exactly what you said. It's just the same. It's the same story, different year. It's like you're getting deja vu. And Zach LaVine being injured, that's nothing new, unfortunately. So the Bulls should be able to adapt to that part of it by now. Everything else, it's frustrating, but that I will give them a little bit of credit for working hard to beat the Cavaliers, considering they were just coming off of that high with the Mavericks after buzzer beater half court shot to win the game. So they were definitely riding that high, having that confidence, and for the Bulls to kind of snap them back into a little bit of reality to say, hey, even though we're one of the worst teams, we still beat you. So it just goes to show this it's a funny game. All sports are funny games. But again, with the Bulls, they have a lot to work on, a lot to improve on.
So, okay, well, let's talk about the rest of the NBA as a whole. Now, I know you watched LeBron's performance, especially against the Clippers. So, do you think the Lakers are probably can kind of like sneak in there, and perhaps maybe make a go at it with the crazy Western Conference?
I think so. I definitely think that they could make a run with it with LeBron. Probably playing some of the best basketball in his career so far, and it's kind of funny. So, Chris was There was a Facebook post from him a couple of years ago that just popped back up about 4 years ago. It was 4 years ago how he's like, man, LeBron, what did you say? It was like LeBron just doesn't have it anymore with the Lakers, or like, so he had a very hot take 4 years ago, and he's like, you should trade LeBron for AD, for Anthony Davis. And his friend Tyler is a big Lakers fan, and he replied to that post, and he's like, you still think we should trade LeBron? So it was a very hot take. He said it worked out. He does say it worked out now. Yes.
Yeah, as we talked about Lakina, of course, LeBron James and Anthony Davis have been healthy for the majority of the year, but it's also up to the other guys to help get the Lakers back into their winning ways. I believe the Lakers are now 4 games above 500. They beat the Washington Wizards by 3 points in overtime at home last night. Christine, I know we had you on last week. You talked about the Golden State Warriors. You say you still believe in them. They had another big win on the road last night as they continue the East Coast road trip. They beat the New York Knicks at MSG. Draymond Green has been on his best behavior, 13-6 since the return from his suspension. Do you still believe in the Warriors? Do you think they'll be a top 6 team, or do you think they'll have to go through the play-in tournament to get into the playoffs?
Probably when Draymond Green got in trouble and got his suspension and his mandatory training, whatever you want to call it, that was probably a wake-up call for the team. And you know what? It probably in the long run did them a favor in order to push more and in order to work harder to get those wins. That's why they're playing really good right now. They're not in that slump how they were this time last year. They are playing some really good basketball, and I expect that to be the trend here coming in the next couple of months, especially if Draymond Green keeps his attitude right and he what is it, sits straight and flies right? Is that the saying?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Got it. Oh, sounds good. What about the Eastern Conference? I mean, Boston. We've seen what they've been doing. I still think the lack of depth is going to be an issue, so we'll see about that. Milwaukee's starting to figure it out. So what do you think about the Eastern Conference? The West is so, wide open. What about the East? You think it's the Celtics and the Bucks and everyone else?
You know what? I think the Celtics still have a very high chance because like we were talking about last week, they're still looking like one of the best teams in the league right now, and they're playing some of the best basketball that either of us have seen in a long time, probably since like the early 2000s. And they've had some trouble in the off seasons recently with coaches, general managers changes, and same things can be said about the Nets too, with those same internal little rumblings going on in that organization. But it shows that they are both pushing through, especially with the Celtics right now, and it's pretty much anybody's game, I think, for the most part. The Bucks, if Giannis can get back to how he was, I don't know. There's some sort of, we were talking about this the other day, me and my co-host, and there's something, I don't want to say egotistical about him, but he's definitely getting a bigger head than what he had when he started in the league. It's a little bit more of like I'm the best in the league. And before he's like, no, I'm not that good. And so I think if he kind of gets back down to earth a little bit and plays the game that he knows and what we all have seen him do, I think he can be successful, and the Bucks have a chance too.
All right, let's switch over to baseball. Christine, of course, I'm wearing my greatest Chicago White Sox jersey since it's March 1st. Spring is sprung. Of course, we had 28, 27 days left until the whole opener against the Detroit Tigers. Welcome back, Jason Benetti, who's the Tigers announcer.
Boy.
He'll be calling that game. I know. It's going to be one heck of a day on the South Side, but we'll talk about that once we get closer. But spring training baseball is underway. Of course, the White Sox win both their games yesterday in a split squad game against Kansas City. Of course, the Cubs, I want to get your take on this. The Cubs, this time last week, we worked a free agent contract with Cody Bellinger. He's back on the north side. 3 years, $80 million. Opt-out clause in the first 2 years. What are your thoughts? And does this make the Cubs the favorite in the NL Central for 2024?
Yeah, starting with the Cubs first, having Cody Bellinger back, that's huge. And that's a great deal for the Cubs, too, in the long run, just because Bellinger, he's such a big asset. Not only was he a huge asset to the Dodgers, but for the Cubs organization as well. I think that's why they were so good last year, was because having a player like Bellinger on your side. And I knew last year when they got him, I said, oh, great, we're really in trouble now. That's a big move that the Cubs got there. When it comes to the White Sox, nothing really surprised me this spring training. We kind of see the little cracks in the team already, but what was one of the bright spots was that new pitcher, that rookie, that Garrett, who struck out Ohtani. If anything,
Crochet, yeah.
Yes, if anything is a down spot this year, I'd say that's one of the brighter spots of the season. Is one of your first times on the mound and you're up against Shohei and you strike him out. Like, even Shohei kind of looked at his balls going, whoa, like I didn't see that coming at all. And I showed the videos to Chris and he's like, yeah, those are solidly 97, 98 mile per hour throws there. So I think because he throws so fast, he reminds me of how Michael Kopech was when he started out with the organization. So as long as he keeps the power in his arm balanced so he can stay healthy, I think he's going to be a good pitcher to watch out for this season.
Well, and also Manika is hitting like 400 or something like that in spring training. So yeah, I guess that's a good thing. What about like guys like Matt Chapman? I saw that Blake Snell, he might be going to the Giants. So what do you think about the other like Scott Boras clients? Because we saw with Bellinger, he settled on a new deal. So yeah, what do you think about the other Boras guys that because there are a lot of them are still not signed?
I mean, gosh, when I think of the guys that signed, Liam Hendricks just break my heart already with the Red Sox going there. I mean, another mistake that the White Sox made, but it's not my circus, not my monkeys. And then you have Tim Anderson, who we figured that was going to be traded. I hope he does well in Miami with the Marlins. I know they've been kind of struggling over the last couple of years, so I hope he's a good bat and a good asset for them when it comes to infield work. And you never know what's going to happen, especially when they just signed Bellinger again. There's still time for a lot of finagling going around in the MLB.
Just like Christine, for those of you that want to welcome back Liam Hendricks, the Boston Red Sox will pay a visit to the South Side June the 7th through June the 9th. So get your tickets. There'll be plenty of seats available this year, especially if the White Sox stink as many predict. But
we'll come on, Sid. Give him a little credit. It hasn't started yet.
Oh, you hold on to whole springs of total. I get you.
I am holding on hope right now.
We're heading down the whole search with our girl, Miss Christine, the Queen Manika for KXRB in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, right here on Second City Sports, the Friday edition. Sid Lakina here with you on Sports Zone Chicago. Christine, going back to the White Sox, you brought up Michael Kopech. Of course, he's lost 20 to 30 pounds this all season. He's actually added a cutter to his pitching repertoire. What do you expect from him this year? Do you think, can we finally put it to rest that he's either a starter or a bullpen? I wish the Sox would make up their mind. If he's a starter, leave him there. If he's going to be coming out the bullpen like he did a couple of years ago, leave him there. This flip-flopping back and forth is just driving me crazy.
Well, first of all, I had no idea that he dropped that much weight. I don't know what he did to do that. Maybe some holistic medicine or whatever? Did he do the Aaron Rodgers and just go in a dark hole in the off season? I don't know.
Well, remember he had that cyst removed too. So from his knees, I think that might have contributed to the weight loss as well, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, I never thought of him being that big of a guy, but okay, like that's just dramatic in itself. And I would think when it comes to figuring out if he's a starter, if he's a closer, if he's in the bullpen, that's probably frustrating for him too, as much as it is for anybody else watching, because when we first got him, he was going to be the guy. He was going to be the best starting pitcher, not only in Chicago, but in the league. And then he had his Tommy John surgery and a bunch of other injuries and just personal issues that came up after that. So it's probably mentally taking a toll on him a little bit, and he wants to figure out where he wants to go. I think he was great in the bullpen. That seems to where his sweet spot was. That seems to be where his sweet spot is, because he was just kind of getting back into it. I haven't seen him yet as a starting pitcher this offseason. But if they really want to try to ease him back into it, I would keep him at the bullpen. But I think as an option, he could be a good closer too.
Probably could. Look, there might be something to look forward to if you're a Sox fan. Might be some bright spots here. You're trying to help here. Now we're a couple of weeks away from March Madness, Christine, and I know there are some schools where you're at that are kind of right there, perhaps maybe getting some maybe get the automatic bid to the dance. So do you have any favorites from either the men's or the women's side, and what say you?
Well, obviously for the women's side, you got to talk about the Hawkeyes and Caitlin Clark, especially now that she has officially declared to go to the WNBA. That she wants to get that championship home for her Hawkeyes and for Iowa as well. So that's probably a big favorite. Notre Dame's women's yesterday had a big upset. They defeated Virginia Tech, and they are believed that they were ranked number 17 at that point. And so that could be an interesting turn of events there to see where that team goes. It's been a while since they've been in conversation, especially when their coach retired not too long ago after their one of their big championship runs. And for the men's side, honestly, it can go either way. There isn't really a team that has stood out in my mind like it has been in years past. It kind of goes back and forth. Purdue, for example, they always hype up Purdue, and they either are big letdowns or they're actually doing something. And I think depending on where that goes, Purdue could be a good one to watch out for. I think, Rock Chalk Nation, Kansas could have another good chance this year. Duke, I don't know. I'm still kind of hesitant about Duke. There are all these people that say, "Yay, go Duke," and I respect that fan based on what Coach K built. Trust me, but I don't know. It just kind of depends on the year for them too. So that's going to be the interesting side. I think the women's, you pretty much have a good idea, even throwing Connecticut in there. Why don't you for the women's? But the men is pretty much, I think, up for anybody right now.
All right, one of my last questions for me, Christine, before we close up shop is, speaking of Duke, Philip Kowski, their star player, they lost to Wake Forest 1 week ago tomorrow, and he injured his ankle trying to get out of that crowd storming scrum at Wake Forest. Should the tradition of fans storming on the court stop, or do you think that security should let the players off the court first and then let the students storm the court? What are your thoughts on that?
It is interesting that's being brought up in conversation now, because I can see both sides. One, it wasn't like it was a big tournament, big championship game, whatever, for the students to storm the court. The other side of it is that knowing the kind of organization that Duke is and its basketball history and all that, and Wake Forest not expecting to win that game, I can see why the students did go on the court and to show their support. Now, do I think it should be a little bit more controlled in the sense where it's like, let the players at least get to the sideline, not in the middle of the court? Yeah, because there was a game a couple of weeks ago when it was, oh gosh, what's that school in Omaha? Creighton, and was it Nebraska or Iowa that they were playing against last week?
it was you actually UConn. It was UConn. I think
UConn. It was UConn. Okay, so it was UConn and Creighton, and Creighton won that game, and they stormed the floor for that too when UConn was ranked number 1, and nothing happened there. So it kind of, I don't want to. Yes, you should set a precedent for rules for storming the court, but I think it's kind of up to the discretion of the universities for those decisions and what the punishment should be. It shouldn't be up to the NCAA because they can't control every student that goes on the court. The universities can. So that's pretty much conversation to have with the athletic director, the SIDs, and also the presidents of the university itself.
I would say the conferences too, because remember the SEC, you get fined for storming the field and storming the court. So, and I know the Big Ten, they have like a 3-strike thing. Strike 1, you get a warning, and then whatever. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how that goes. But have you guys watched the Patriots documentary on Apple TV Plus? Do either one of you have Apple TV Plus?
We're trying to get Apple TV, not yet.
Yeah, I was say same here because everyone says it's really good. Sid, how about you? Do you have Apple TV?
Not yet. Not yet.
Oh yeah. Cause I know everyone says it's really good. You guys can watch the Patriots dynasty. We've talked. I'm sure we have talked about this before. So which team? I know they're going to do something about the Lakers. The '90s to the late '90s, 2000 Lakers. I think they're going to do something about that. It's going to come out later this year, I believe, or not early next year. So which team do you guys think that they should do a documentary on that hasn't been done yet?
That hasn't been done yet?
That hasn't been done yet. Because
boy.
Because we know.
No, before Christine gets her answer, the Montreal Expos, they'll have a documentary with MLB Productions coming out later this year on Netflix.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That led up to them moving in the late 90s.
Yeah. Now the Washington Nationals. Yeah.
Yep.
I think it would be interesting, not just a specific team, but for a city, Las Vegas, and how they've kind of grown into their own with the sports after getting, the Raiders and now the hockey team, possibly getting a baseball team. So I think that would be interesting to kind of see the evolution of sports in Las Vegas.
Ooh, that's not bad.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to get an NBA team too. I know it's not official, but it's going to happen down the road. My prediction within the next 5 to 10 years or so, especially with sports gambling being so common now.
Yeah.
At one time it was scarcity mentality. Don't talk about it. Everybody knew about it, but those days are gone. Which team they should follow? You know what? I know at the time it was CSN Chicago, and I think that documentary is on YouTube. But I thought they did a great job. You should do a deeper dive into that 2003 Cubs team.
Ooh, that should be yeah.
I would love to see that because there was drama between Sammy Sosa and Kenny Lofton at the end of that Marlins series. Remember Kerry Wood came back as a starter. He had a great year. Mark Pryor, even though he was injured for a month, he had a Cy Young type of season.
Yes, he did.
Dusty Baker, congratulations to him on his retirement. He finally got that championship ring as a manager with the Houston Astros. But there was a lot going on with him. I want somebody to do from 2003 until 2006 when Dusty was fired. Now that would be an interesting one.
Ooh, that shit. Ooh, a lot of tea will probably be spilled that year. I'd probably say the COVID years. I think with the Lakers and the with the NBA and the bubble, and then you had the NCAA tournament. Both the men and the women doing theirs in the bubble. MLB,
a year later,
yeah. Then of course the Dodgers win the year later in kind of like a bubble type, with no crowds. That's what I'm sure someone's going to do that at some point. Kind of sports during the 2020, 2021 year when you had no fans and you couldn't very small little fan. Even the announcers had to be like in a certain spot. So that's kind of like I think we're going to get that at some point, maybe within the next few years. But yeah, the 2021 sporting year that from nothing to now to limited. Now we're back to full crowds. That'll be interesting for me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else before we disperse, guys?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's going to be warm in the Chi this weekend with tomorrow and Sunday being the upper 60s. I think Sunday is going to be 70s We're in the month of March. Spring is sprung. Yay!
We love it.
Yeah,
Yes.
Climate change, kids. You gotta love climate change.
Yes, it's real.
Yeah, exactly. Well, okay, the old NBA from back in the day. I won't do the whole thing. Yeah, I was gonna say spectacular, but that just sounded kind of silly. On that note, you follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter, X, and Kira's going to IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Christine, where can the lovely people follow you on social media?
They can follow me at @Manika_KXRB.
And you still have the bird?
I do.
She's not keeping that bird, folks. She's not giving up on the bird. She's keeping that bird. You can catch Second City Sports every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more time, folks. Catch Second City Sports every Monday and Friday, noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time on Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels.
Yeah, don't forget to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. Please subscribe to our podcast. We're at War Media Podcast, WARR Media, PODCASTS. We're on all podcast platforms, including that iHeartRadio app. And give War Media a follow on all social media platforms at WARR Media. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
And we'd like to thank Scott Lewis from the Barber Chairs Network. Follow them on all social media platforms. And, of course, we'd like to thank the lovely Miss Christine, the Queen Manika.
And
thank you.
Yes, absolutely on both counts. Of course, you get Sports on Chicago anytime, anywhere on Roku TV. So wherever you get your apps on the Roku TV app, you can type in Sports on Chicago. You can catch our show, Sean and Maya, the Smoke Bells, What's Up Cuz, and a whole lot more. Hopefully some new content you'll coming soon. So it's all right there for you. Catch Sports on Chicago anytime, anywhere on Roku TV.
And you know we will provide.
All right, enjoy some of this gorgeous weather we got coming up in the upper Midwest and other parts of the country. Enjoy all the sports, the basketball, both pro and college, baseball and hockey, of course, and so much more. And just be safe out there and be good to each other. For Christine and Sid, I'm the Kansas Miss Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago, and we'll see you next week.
It's like heat wave. Woo, woo, woo. Holla.